Hey everybody, and welcome, I guess, back to some more football chat. I do quite a bit over the course of the season. Did one fairly recently over the, all about the European finals and such, but I thought we'd focus today a little bit on transfers, because they're kind of one of the most fun parts of the football season, even though it's not even in the football season, if that makes sense. People always have their kind of hopes and dreams either kind of realised or dashed, by the time you get to the transfer deadline window. And I think a lot more clubs nowadays are trying to do their business pretty early. You used to get a lot more where the football clubs would leave it a little bit to last minute, try and get some deals or, that kind of thing. But I think now a lot of clubs have actually made some big signings, and certainly there's a lot of big rumours. So we'll go through the kind of confirmed signings, and I'll give my view on that. We're going to mainly focus around the kind of big transfers, the big clubs. So, probably Premier Leagues and, the big leagues in Europe and that type of thing. But, I can't do every single transfer, clearly, on there, and talk a little bit about it, I guess. So I'm here on like the Sky Sports website as well. You can use, I wouldn't necessarily say Sky Sports is the best website to use, but it's there. I guess the first one actually that probably jumps out to me is definitely the I'm joking, is the Luka Jovic from Eintracht Frankfurt to Real Madrid. That one I think that was done a while ago, or maybe it was kind of signed, but that just kind of went over the line. Very good, promising young striker. Real Madrid seemed to be, people are kind of like, oh, they're building another team of Galacticos, because you'll see other transfers they had, but I think it's more just like they needed some good players, because they were really struggling last season. The loss of Cristiano Ronaldo was massive to them, because he was their main goal scorer, and they could rely on him to pick up kind of like 40 goals a season, and then that just didn't come from anywhere else. Gareth Bale, for whatever reason, whether it was his fault or they just didn't fancy him, he didn't play much, and you would think in his position he'd want to leave Real Madrid to get some game time, but also you got to look at, if he leaves Real Madrid, he takes a massive pay cut. So it swings and roundabouts, isn't it, really? And for all those people who are like, oh, he's such a mercenary, blah blah blah, imagine you go to your job and you work 5 days a week. It's not that hard. You get to chat with people, you do a bit of physical work, all that type of stuff. You get to go and play golf in the afternoons, and you're getting paid like 500 grand a week for it. And then someone says, hey, come here, you get to do more of what you love, but we're going to pay you like 200 grand a week. It's not as easy a thought, as you might think. A lot of us would be like, well, 200 grand a week's absolutely fine, but a footballer's career is very short, and people have families, and they want to be able to look after their families for the rest of their lives, from working their short careers. So it's not quite as simple, I think, as sometimes people make out. But personally, I feel like I would probably move to get football, especially at the stage of his career where he's getting, not towards the end of his career, but he's around his peak time now. And, if he's going to do something, he's going to do it. I think it's a decision, obviously, though, that is what he's got to do. But I think the Luka Jovic one's I think it was about 50 million, I think, or so. It says undisclosed. I think it was about 50. And, going rate for a good young striker, I guess, is probably about that. I don't think they really overpaid. He looks very good. Sometimes these things can go one of two ways. They can either go that, somebody has a bit of a one-season wonder and then doesn't really acclimatise well. Going from Eintracht Frankfurt in the Bundesliga to Real Madrid is a huge jump. Fair play to the guy if he pulls it out of the bag next season and does well. I hope he does, personally. Where are we now? Let's move up and see what we can see. I saw this one, like Jota, going from Birmingham to Aston Villa. I was like, oof, That's and then there's one Aston Villa to Birmingham for Gary Gardner. I was like, you don't often see massive rivals, with players going to and from them directly like that. I guess obviously the probably the biggest one of the summer, which people have almost forgotten about now because it was like a month ago as I record this. Eden Hazard, Chelsea to Real Madrid. Everyone's really been expecting this for quite some time, I think. No real surprise on that one. I don't feel like it's too much of a... I feel like Eden Hazard did everything he probably wanted to do at Chelsea. He won leagues. I think he won the Champions League with them as well, didn't he? He won leagues, he won cups, he won trophies. I think he took them, he did as much as he could for them, as far as he went. And I think he probably looked at it, especially with the transfer deadline, and thought, now's my time to move on. I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. I don't really think the Chelsea fans have a huge issue with it. I'm sure every single one of them would love to have kept him 100% because he's a brilliant player. But I don't think too many of them would be like, oh, can't believe he's left, what a traitor. Because, Chelsea are in a little bit of a transition period, and he's getting now towards the peak time of his career. I think he's about 28, and who can blame him if he wants to go to a massive club like Real Madrid? That's firstly a huge payday, and again, people call footballers mercenaries, but listen, we all move jobs for more money all the time. Nobody calls us a mercenary for it. It's just realistic in life. He's moved to Real Madrid. He'll get a big signing on fee and all that type of stuff. Probably a huge bump in his wages as well, to be fair. I don't think anybody can really blame him, can they, for doing this? I think it's a really good signing for Real Madrid. They needed to make a big statement signing like this, since losing Cristiano. Questions arising of where they're getting all of this money from. It's an interesting one, I think, in terms of financial fair play, etc. But a good signing for Real Madrid, I think. I'm not sure he's going to be like a kind of Ronaldo replacement. Obviously, he's not that sort of player, but I would definitely imagine him picking up a fair few goals in the Spanish league. The thing about the Spanish league is there's some very, very good teams in there, and there's some very, very bad teams in there, because financially it is completely disproportionate. For those who don't know, in the UK, the Premier League, England, I guess, England and Wales, the Premier League is the prize money is shared out virtually evenly between the teams. There's prize money which varies, but the TV rights are pretty much shared between the teams, which is why people say it's like the £150 million game to go up to Premier League, because everybody gets like an equal share of the TV rights. So teams can compete. You can go into Premier League, you can spend 100 million a la Fulham because you had that TV money. That's not the way it works in Spain. I believe they kind of individually negotiate their rights. So obviously the Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrids get way more of proportion than the Getafes or the Alves or whatever. So it's exceptionally difficult for any smaller team to actually compete, which is why you just get this domination of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico, which is just going to go on forever, basically. It doesn't make it very competitive, but I guess in other terms, people love having these big super teams, like Real Madrid and Barcelona. It does mean that even if Real Madrid has a bad season, they're probably not going to finish less than 4th or 5th. So, they're probably still going to be in the Champions League, which, from a cynical point of view, is exactly what UEFA and those kind of people want, because they want to have those names in the Champions League. So they want these almost uncompetitive leagues, because they pretty much want like a European Super League, But yeah, anyway, I'm tangenting. Let's have a little look up where we're going. We're well into June now. Real Madrid again, spending big. Ferland Mendy, Leon to Real Madrid. 50 million seems to be going rate for a fullback nowadays, doesn't it? I can't honestly say I know too much about him. Hopefully he's not as injury prone as his namesake at Man City, although I think he's a very good player, Mendy at Man City. There's a lot of like Mendy fullbacks, isn't there, in France? I swear there's another one as well. It's really confusing, but I think he's a left back. So I don't know if I think it's kind of like a because they've got, what's it, Marcelo, the left back at Real Madrid. I don't know if there's a problem with him. I don't know, I know Real Madrid had a pretty bad season. I don't know if this guy's they're thinking more about in the seasons to come, because I think Marcelo's getting a bit old now. But we'll see, I guess. 50 million is a lot to spend if you're not going to play a player, put it that way, even if you're Real Madrid. Dan James going from Swansea to Man City. That one had been rumoured for quite a while. Good young player. I'll be honest, I'm not sure I can see him like breaking into the Man United team this season. I can see this as a little bit of a Zaha thing, to be completely honest with you, which is where, very promising young kind of winger, doesn't, brought by Man United for around about 15 million, doesn't, make it into the first team, probably gets loaned out or loaned back next season, something like that, and then ends up, somewhere else. So, I don't know about this one. He looks very good, but I don't see him going in there as a first team player. Maybe, playing a few games, cup games, maybe even some Europa League games, because Man United are in the Europa League. But yeah, I don't know about this one, to be completely honest with you. It kind of feels like Man United being like, oh, there's a young player, let's buy him. Or kind of, oh, people are talking about him, he looks good, let's buy him. Let's focus on buying young players and build. I don't know, it seems a bit weird. Everything Man United does is a bit weird, isn't it? Let's face it. So it shouldn't come too much of a surprise. Wesley here from Club Brugge to Aston Villa. The FIFA 19 legend Wesley. I loved him in FIFA 19. I thought he was brilliant. God knows whether he's good in real life or not, but I'm actually going to really keep an eye on him. I think in FIFA he's like this kind of target man type guy who's also quite skillful, not the quickest, but to be fair, that is actually very useful in the English game, someone with a bit of power on there. So Club Brugge, the Belgian league to the Premier League, that's a step up. We have seen players come from there before and do very well, so we'll see. I think he's Brazilian, by the way. He's not Belgian, he's not Flemish, as it were, but anyway. Takefusa Kubo, the Japanese Messi. Whenever someone is is like a small skillful player, you insert the country of origin and then Messi, and that's their nickname, isn't it? So they could be like the Gambia Messi, or the Australian Messi, or the the Scottish Messi, or the Brazilian Messi, or the Argentinian Messi. No, it doesn't work. Anyway, so this guy apparently is cheap price. From what I've heard, it's not just a marketing thing, because obviously Japan is a huge market. If you have a Japanese player, the TV kind of rights are going to go up in Japan, blah blah blah. I've heard he's pretty good. I couldn't honestly see him breaking into the Real Madrid team, though, to be completely honest with you. So yeah, we'll see on that one. West Ham splashing the cash a little bit on Pablo Fornals. I've heard he's just a very kind of classy midfielder. Very good on the ball. Be interesting to see what West Ham do. They were kind of off the radar last season a little bit, because they had obviously such a terrible start, but then by the end of the season they definitely stabilised, and as things were going, there's massive rumours about Arnautovic leaving, which has been going on for a long time, so we'll see. But wouldn't I could definitely see some ins and outs at West Ham. If they lose Arnautovic, they need to sign someone there. Big time. Courtney House, Wolves, Aston Villa, 3 million. Decent centre back, young centre back. Aston Villa have got a lot of work to do. We'll do a Premier League, kind of like preview video, I guess, a bit closer to the time. And we are going to do another fantasy football league, by the way, as well. We'll kind of see as we go through there. Marcos Llorente from Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid slashing the cash a little bit as well. Trying to see if there's any others who I'm kind of missing here as we're going through. Okay. Just trying to look at the teams to see. We're going Josip Dremic. I know this guy. I've heard this name a lot. I think he's had some really bad injuries the last couple of seasons, because I think he was very promising before that. It would be interesting. Norwich again, it's going to be very interesting. I think all three of the promoted clubs, last season everyone was like, yeah, Wolves and Fulham, they're going to be fine. Obviously, Wolves were more than fine, and Fulham were far less than fine. So it's always difficult to tell. I think all three of them are really going to struggle personally. But we'll see. Again, still lots to go. Andre Gomez, Barcelona to Everton, 22 million. I think everybody can agree that's a good deal. He looked very good at Everton. He's just the sort of player Everton need to take them to that next level. He's a quality midfielder. Didn't really work out at Barcelona, but he was very good at Valencia before that. And really just great on the ball. And I think Everton really need that, and they were a far better side when they had him in there. So I think everybody could agree that that's a really, really good deal. Jasper Cillessen, Barcelona to Valencia for 30 million. Good goalkeeper. Obviously, him and Ter Stegen were kind of battling it out, and I think, as you can see, he lost that battle. So probably good signing for Valencia, though, to be honest with you. 30 million for a decent goalkeeper is really a good deal. And, okay. I was thinking to myself, I'm sure they had a decent goalkeeper. Yep. So he went to Barcelona. So I guess he's going as backup now, probably. They got themselves probably an upgrade. Kind of an upgrade. I don't know, really. It's a bit of a weird one, isn't it, really? I guess that essentially they paid 10 million for a goalkeeper. Barcelona made 10 million and got a backup goalkeeper who's decent, like really decent. So that seems like a good bit of business there, probably for both clubs, to be completely honest with you. I think that's a young defender going to Liverpool there. Antonio Valencia, I did not see that. He left. Oh well. Very good, Antonio Valencia in his prime. Excellent kind of like right wing back type player. Very underrated, I think. His kind of like involvement in those decent United sides. Ryan Babel, Fulham to Galatasaray. Do you know what? I think Ryan Babel was very good at Fulham when he went there. He was a decent shout, and I'm surprised he's gone to like Galatasaray. I thought he would have gone. I thought another Premier League club might have sniffed him out. Someone like, a Crystal Palace, for example, who need a striker. But there you go. And then we come up to one of the big ones we're going to be talking about here, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Crystal Palace to Manchester United. As a Crystal Palace fan, I can say that I have delighted in the emergence of Aaron Wan-Bissaka this season. A little bit last season as well, kind of coming through. Hodgson giving him his chance and him just stepping up and taking it with both hands. Has looked brilliant. Probably looked one of the best defensive right backs in the Premier League, I would say, last season. There were players going forward who were better than him, without a doubt. Trent Alexander-Arnold is fantastic, going forward on the right, clearly. But what you have to also imagine is Crystal Palace are often a team doing the defending. Liverpool are often a team doing the attacking. So, if you spend most of your season, camped out on the 18-yard line, as Wan-Bissaka can be known to do, then you're limited, because people have brought up stats and like, oh look, he's only got this many assists or whatever. This is rubbish. But like, maybe people don't see a lot of Crystal Palace matches, but we are often camped out, especially against the big teams, and trying to hit something on the break. And often, the fullback is not able to get up the pitch as much as they would be able to. That will change at Man United. We'll see what he's able to do. 50 million, I think it's like 45 million, and then like the rest is like add-ons or something like that. I'm sad to see him go, because, as I said, you don't want to lose some of your best players, and he was definitely like our second best player last season. You could say consistently probably our best. But 50 million is a lot of money to Crystal Palace. Like, you can't really underestimate that. Our transfer budgets most season is about 30, 35. So to get an injection like that is huge. And for a player who, is coming through and has had one good season behind him, undoubtedly talented. I think he'll be a success at Man United, but also I think it's a risky transfer. So, because, he's not, this is £50 million for a right back. Yes, he's English. Yes, he's young, but he's had one good season. And, that is a good season playing for Crystal Palace, you know, not under a huge amount of pressure. Now you go to Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and I use that term in terms of the fan base and money rather than on the pitch at the minute. One of the biggest clubs in the world, spotlight's going to be on him. Every mistake he makes will be picked up. It won't be a case of, oh, he's young, he's coming through, he'll learn. It'll be a case of, that's a £50 million right back who's just let that guy, you know, who's just brought that guy down in a bad place, or made a mistake there with that pass or whatever. So it's a lot of pressure to put on somebody, young. I really hope he does it. I'm not one of these players who's like, I hope he fails. I hope he goes on and becomes one of the best right backs in the world, because I always take pride when I see those players go on. You know, like when I saw Victor Moses win the Champions League, or when I saw Nathaniel Clyne go to Liverpool, players like that. I'm always like, yeah, you know, they came through at Palace. You know, they're good guys. And whatever happens with Zaha, I wish him all the best as well. I hope this guy goes on and takes everyone by storm. I know there are some doubters out there, especially, you know, with that price tag. But Man United needed a right back, didn't they? Everyone saw that last season. I was speaking to a friend of mine who is a Man United fan, and he was like, I did find it strange because we had Dalot, we brought as this kind of young right back. And I kind of agree, but also I think he was injured for a fair bit last season. But I mean, it doesn't hurt to have two right backs who are good, does it? I mean, we've seen this, you know, teams who use their fullbacks a lot, you know, it's become one of the most important positions on the pitch. It used to be almost like the jokey position, like you put your worst player at left back or right back, but nowadays it's one of the most important. You know, you see the importance of it at Liverpool. You know, when Robertson and Trent Arnold aren't in, you see that side not as good. At Man City, you know, they've spent a lot of money on fullbacks because they know how important it is. You know, we see consistently teams, you know, not able to implement styles they want because they don't have the fullbacks. So I don't think I think from Man United's point of view, they can turn around and say, right, we needed a right back. This guy, he looks great. We know he can do it defensively. We can probably, you know, coach the more attacking side to his game. He's young, he's English, and that is important. You know, we think he's ready and he's going to step up, and I think that's great. So I wish him all the best. I think it's a good signing for Man United. You could argue, you could be like, yeah, they could have got someone from, you know, a established fullback for that price. But if this goes well, they have him for 10 years. You know, he's like 20, so that's not unrealistic either. And, you know, he could be a club legend. So, you know, that 50 million then is nothing, is it, really, to a club like Man United? So we'll see. Diego Godin goes from Atletico to Inter. Atletico have a job rebuilding at the back, I guess. I think they lost two of their centre-backs. Inter, of course, now have Conte as their manager. So I'm sure he'll enjoy working with such a quality defender. And it makes total sense. Godin, obviously, getting on a bit, lose a bit of pace, go to Italy. The slowest league in the world. Oh, okay. I didn't see this actually. Thomas Callas from Chelsea to Bristol City for 8 million. That's very interesting. He was kind of like one of the bright young things coming through at Chelsea. So it's interesting they've actually sold one of them. I guess, to be fair, if he's not coming through, you know, cash in. Leander Dendoncker from Anderlecht to Wolves, undisclosed. He looked pretty good. He was on loan at them last season. I think that's a decent signing for Wolves, definitely. Matt Targett, Southampton to Aston Villa for 11 million. I mean, okay. Che Adams, Birmingham to Southampton for 15. He's looked very good in the Championship. He does look like a decent young striker. I think it's probably a decent enough price for him. He could be good. I think 15 million isn't a crazy amount. You've also got Danny Ings going for 18 million. I think that's a good signing for them. He looked decent when he played. He had some injuries, but he looked decent. If they've got him, Che, and what's the other one? Charlie Austin. That's a decent enough strike force. I think that gets you some goals. You can rotate them around a bit. So I could see that there. You know, Chadham's pacey striker. So that's decent enough signing, I think, for them. Kovacic, Real Madrid to Chelsea, 40 million. I was not personally impressed by Kovacic, at all. What I would say, and this might be controversial, I think that's just Chelsea going, he's the only guy we can sign, so we sign him because of the transfer ban, and because this was kind of pre-agreed, it means they could sign him. And I think they're just like, at the minute, let's just get some numbers in midfield. I think if they didn't have a transfer ban, they wouldn't have signed him. That's my personal opinion. So we'll see on there. I could be wrong. It could just have been he didn't fit Sarri's style, but then that would be weird because Sarri brought him in. But we'll see. Obviously, we'll talk about Chelsea in a bit as well with their new manager. Rabiot going from Paris Saint-Germain to Juventus on a free. All I know about this guy is exceptionally talented, but a pain in the backside. So we'll see if going to Juventus works out for him. Juventus love a free, don't they? They love a free, and they get some big ones too. Emre Can, obviously Aaron Ramsey, Rabiot. They love a free. Jack Clarke signed from Leeds to Tottenham. It looked very good, I think, in the Championship. I think he had a little bit of an injury and then didn't quite come back from there. But I think that's a decent enough signing. Tottenham actually making some signings, broke their transfer record for this guy, Tanguy and Ndombele. He reminds me a lot of Kante in that his kind of rise was very similar. Only a few years ago, I think he was playing in like the French third division or something like that, and now he's risen up and now he's making this kind of like massive move to Tottenham. We'll see. Tottenham's going to be an interesting one this season because obviously they kind of, in a way, overachieved last season considering they didn't sign anyone. They made it to a Champions League final, but they still haven't won anything. They have this great new ground, but how much are some of their big players getting itchy feet now? Eriksen, Ali, Kane. We already saw like Alderweireld, Vertonghen, getting those little itchy feet. And how much is Tottenham going to have to rebuild this season? Who are they going to lose? I don't think like Kane and Ali will go anywhere. I think Eriksen will, though, personally. But we'll see. And he's a tough one to replace as well, definitely, because there's times where he's looked like by far and away their best player. But yeah, from what I've heard about this guy, I can't say I've really watched him play very much, this Tanguy and Ndombele. Or Ndombele, I think the end's probably silent, isn't it? But and Tottenham love a Ndombele as well. He sounds decent. 65 million. Again, I kind of feel like if you want a quality player, that's like the standard. It seems like 100 million is now for the top quality player, like the elite players, and like 50 million is kind of like standard for a decent player. It's crazy, absolutely mental. It can't go on like this, really. And then we get to João Felix, Benfica to Atletico Madrid for 113 million. So we know that Atletico, the reason why they're able to do this transfer is because Griezmann is going to Barcelona. I don't know if that one is confirmed yet, actually, but it is as good as, isn't it, basically? João Felix has looked brilliant for Benfica. Very young guy. I think he's like 19, isn't he? If we click on this. He looks absolutely quality. Yeah, 19. So worn by Atletico. He's going to wear the number 7 shirt worn by Griezmann, meaning Atletico might be close to selling him. As if Atletico are not going to sell him. Atletico are building a kind of good young side. They kind of have to, in a way, kind of, to make a signing like that, they have to sell. So you kind of like, you lose Griezmann, but you get João Felix. It's an interesting one. There were a lot of clubs after him. I'm surprised an English club maybe didn't come in for him, but that is a lot of money. That is a lot of money for a 19-year-old with one good season behind him. But he does look quality, so we'll see. Big boots to fill in Griezmann at Atletico, without a doubt. We'll see. I actually, weirdly, I actually know somebody who works for me their son is his like second cousin, and so he knows the guy, and has said that he's actually like a very down to earth kind of kid, and he just likes playing football. Yeah, I think he famously said like he doesn't care about the money, he just cares about girls, which is an interesting way to go. But yeah, he apparently is a down to earth guy. But these ones, I always feel they're kind of like a bit of a lottery in a way, because that's a huge transfer fee, and you know, if he doesn't get a goal within his first 4 or 5 matches, then suddenly people are asking questions, aren't they? And that just puts a lot of pressure on a 19-year-old kid, basically. You know, he's an adult, but you know what I mean. Yaya Toure went to China, famously said a couple of years ago that he'd never go to China. Okay. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, absolutely, I agree with players who go in their prime, but Yaya Toure is like 36 or something like that. Like, yeah, of course, take a payday. Like, who can blame a person like that? No one. You know, same way when Xavi went to like Qatar, it's like no one can blame the guy. He did everything. You know, he did everything he wanted to achieve. Get some money, set up your kids for life, and their kids and those kids, you know, and do it. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't like it when people go in their prime, because I feel like, you know, you can do something, you know, you can have a career, you know, you don't need to go to China. But there you go. This one, Angelino, PSV to Man City. So they actually sold him to PSV originally, had a cracker of a season. They inserted a 5.3 million buyback clause. He's worth way more than that. So that's a good bit of business for Man City, and that's why you should always put a sign back clause in these things, I guess, if you can. Ospina went to Napoli. I think he was on loan there, wasn't he, last season. Herrera from Man United to Paris Saint-Germain on a free. It's a good signing for Paris Saint-Germain, I think. I don't think Man United wanted to lose him, but I also think that he was more of a kind of squad player than like an out-and-out starter, and he probably just wants game time, doesn't he, really? Paris Saint-Germain are not exactly going to be paying him less money, are they? Let's face it. Buffon, back to Juventus. I didn't see this one, actually. That's interesting. Is this as a goalkeeper, or is this as a coach or something? Be understudy. Why did they sell him then? Oh, okay. So one season he's expected to take on another role at the club. That's such a weird one, isn't it? Like, why did he even leave? I don't even understand it. Abiol, Napoli to Villarreal, 3.6. I remember this guy was actually very highly rated. 3.6 doesn't seem like a lot, does it? Oh, look at that, Leeds United signing a Barcelona player. And then we get through to what happened, I guess, yesterday. Phil Jagielka, Everton to Sheffield United on a free. Obviously, bit of a Sheffield United legend, I guess. Way past his best. I think he'll offer a great deal of experience, you know, Premier League experience to the club. I think that's actually a very, very good signing for them. Even if he maybe doesn't play a huge amount in the dressing room, things like that would be invaluable for the next season. Rodri from Atletico to Man City. I was wondering when Man City were going to, step up and sign up somebody. So yeah, Rodri, for what I know, very, very good kind of like central midfielder. Again, as I said, Atletico kind of, they've signed big players, but they're also having to sell big players. I don't know if he's the guy to maybe replace Fernandinho. So he's saying his signing brings City search for a player that can compete with Fernandinho as a holding midfielder. It was clear they needed somebody because they looked like a much worse team. I know he is a very good player. What is he, 26, is he? How old is he? 6 caps for Spain. 24 hours. Why did it not tell me how old he is? Okay. I think he's like 26, 27. Yeah, I think he's like coming into his prime. I think it's a good signing for them. They needed somebody like that. Absolutely. And again, you can probably add on a 20% extra price tag for what, for the fact that Man City signed him. Go away, advert, please. For the fact that Man City signed him, so maybe that's like 50 million. As I said, 50 million is a pretty standard fee nowadays, really, isn't it, weirdly? But yeah, maybe not one of the kind of like signings I think that might set fans like, oh my god, wow, we got this guy. But definitely probably a very, very needed signing for them, I think. Because you would say that one weakness in the Man City side was Fernandinho not having an understudy, and if he gets injured, suspended, or just tired because he's getting on a little bit now, they looked a much worse side. So him coming in, ominous, isn't it, really, for next season. The only thing you got to say about Man City is, maybe some of their players are getting on a little bit. Like obviously David Silva, is he retired? Well, Vincent Kompany's gone. Aguero, he's getting on a bit, but he never seems to really slow down. Like I don't think he was ever about pace. He was always about positioning and finishing. And but I would say that, like, if I was being super critical of Man City, I would say like they're going to struggle to replace a figure like Kompany. Someone like David Silva, maybe an Aguero when his time eventually comes up. But they've got the money to do it, so it's a bit scary as well, I guess. That's why I thought maybe a João Felix would be a good replacement to play in that kind of David Silva or Aguero role potentially. But maybe they didn't fancy paying 100 million for him. They have got a player like Phil Foden coming through. So, why spend 130 million when you got someone for free you've brought through the academy? I guess makes sense, but we'll see, I guess, on that. Ayoze Perez, Newcastle to Leicester, 30 million. I've always felt he was a really good player and a little bit held back by the fact that Newcastle were a bit crap. So I think that's actually a pretty decent signing for Leicester. Newcastle, with obviously Rafa Benitez leaving, they're in serious trouble, aren't they? Mike Ashley doing what Mike Ashley does best, which is to, asset strip, the club to the best of his ability. There were rumours of this kind of Saudi led like consortium coming in and buying out and all this kind of stuff, but I can't understand why somebody hasn't come in and bought Newcastle, because I feel like they're a really, like when you see Americans or Arabs investing in some clubs, and you're like, why on earth wouldn't you invest in Newcastle? They have this massive like fan base. Just from a money point of view, they have a massive fan base. They're quite a well-known brand around Europe because of what they did under the kind of Keegan era, Robson era, before they I just find it weird, honestly. Maybe it's because Ashley is asking for too much money, and that puts people off. It wouldn't surprise me if that's what the case is, but that's a decent signing. There, I'm not doing like a predictions things now, but I can't predict Newcastle are going to have a comfortable season next season. Currently, you don't know. I don't know who their new manager is going to be or what's going to happen, but yeah, I don't think it's looking too good for them, is it, at the minute? So we thought we'd have a little look through the kind of paper talk and the rumours and stuff like that. So Arsenal on the brink of completing a £26 million deal for William Saliba, and sending him back on loan. That for me is a bizarre one if something like that happens, because Arsenal don't have a lot of money to spend. Like, this seems to be like well documented. So why would you spend a lot of it on a player who's not even going to be able to use next season? That seems completely crazy. Like completely crazy. But I don't know, maybe that is like 26 million in clauses and add-ons, etc., etc. I don't know. I could do a whole video on Arsenal and what's going on there. Like, the entire massive YouTube channels exist because Arsenal is such a banter club, essentially. They're just so weird, aren't they? The things they do, it's just odd. Yeah, so I would find that weird, but hey, you have got to look to the future, obviously. And if this kid is really good, 26 million could be a steal for him, going forward. But you've got to go forward. So Sheffield United trying to sign Neil Maupay. Is it Maupay? Maupay. He's actually a really good young player. I'm surprised no one else has really come in for him. He's always up there in the goal scoring charts. Wouldn't probably be a bad signing. I mean, what can Sheffield United realistically do? it's going to be super tough, and they've got to, I think, buy championship players. They signed Luke Freeman, I think. Was that up on here? Luke Freeman. I know they signed him. I heard about it because I was like, wow, you've signed a championship player. But I think that's all they can do. And yeah, hope to get the best out of those players in the Premier League. And it's not a terrible kind of like way to do things, because then if you do get relegated, you've still got championship players, haven't you? So you can just get back up again. Soufan Boufal is plotting a return to France. I imagine him there with his like little map and like just plotting his route back to France, and ridiculous the kind of verbiage they use. Marcelo wants to leave. Okay, well, yeah, I guess if you're going to sign a £50 million left back, your left back is going to be a little bit put out by that. But I mean, that's also, papers just adding up A and B and getting D potentially. Paris Saint-Germain, Arsenal, Juventus, AC Milan are all on the lookout to sign him up. Okay, I don't know why Arsenal's in there. I don't think they could probably afford him, but there you go. I think they do need a left back, to be fair, but I think that would be I'm not sure Marcelo would fit the bill at Arsenal right now. I would kind of want someone defensive, defensively minded a little bit, who can actually, defend. Marcelo's more like a left winger for Real Madrid. Chelsea midfielder Loftus-Cheek signed a new deal. Brilliant. He's a quality player. I've got a lot of time for him. Yeah, so Inter Milan are trying to sign Lukaku, apparently. Conte loves him for some reason. I don't know why. I think he'd do quite well in Italy. And there's potential with Milan trying to sign Icardi, and that kind of maybe having some sort of like swap deal or something. Yeah, I guess who knows? That one could go on and on, Liverpool worried Lazio tapping up one of their kids. Gianfranco Zola left Chelsea. That's weird that he's left. I thought they might be kept him on a little bit. That's weird. So Frank Lampard has obviously joined Chelsea as their manager. Kind of predictable. I don't know if I spoke about this before, but I do feel like that is a risk, and I don't think Frank Lampard has earned that job. I'll be completely honest with you. Yes, he's a club legend. That accounts for a lot, but I don't feel like he personally has earned the right to manage a club as big as Chelsea with his managerial career. I know sometimes it does work when players go straight into their club, quite early on. Look at someone like Guardiola, for example. But, or Zidane, stepped up to Real Madrid, having just, managed basically their reserves and won 3 Champions League. So it does work, yes. But also, you're asking Frank Lampard to come in, and it stinks a little bit of appeasement in a way, because Chelsea obviously can't sign anyone. So who can they get realistically? What big manager in the world is going to be like, yeah, I want to go to Chelsea, because they can't sign anyone. They can't bring in any of their own players. So what do? You go for this guy who's loved by the fans, obviously like a complete club legend. He brings with him, a guy in Jody Morris, I presume who's coming with him anyway, I'm pretty sure, who is, has worked with the younger players, bring through. Frank's worked with them because they were all on loan at Derby. It does make sense on paper, but it does also, it is because of circumstances. I think if Chelsea didn't have this transfer ban, I'm not sure Frank Lampard would be joining. It's up to him now to take that opportunity and go with it. What is a good season for Chelsea next season, though? That's the question, I think. Is top 4 expected still? Is it, is top 6 good enough? And a good cup run? I don't know. I think the Chelsea fans, because it's Frank, will have a bit of patience. Whether the Chelsea ownership have that patience or not is a different question. I would be surprised so long as there was some sort of like improvement over the course of the season. So even if they had a bad start, but then improved as they went on and maybe finished up like 6th or something like that, I think Frank would still have a job next season. But I think if they are just a bit trash, then we'll see. I don't think he did an amazing job at Derby. I'll be completely honest with you. I think Derby on paper were a lot better than where they finished. That's maybe very harsh, but that's just an opinion, obviously. But again, it was his first season as a manager. This is his second season as a manager. They're in the Champions League. What's expected from that? Is he going to use these young players? Mason Mounts, players like that. It's going to be an interesting one. I hope he does well personally because, he's a young English manager. I like to see managers, take over at the clubs where they're legends at, rather than being like, hey, let's go and, sign the next big manager from Portugal or whatever. I like it. He clearly knows a lot about English football. He comes across as a very intelligent guy. Very well spoken. We'll see whether he's got enough tactically. When he's coming up against the likes of Klopp and Guardiola, these guys have been in this business for a long time, won so many things. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what Frank Lampard is made of this season for sure. This isn't the Championship, Okay, some players. Buffon. Rich offers from the Premier League. Who the fuck in the Premier League is trying to sign Gianluca Buffon at like 42 years old? Give me a break. Leicester are trying to sign James Tarkowski. This is because apparently Man United want to sign Harry Maguire for like 80 million. It's a weird one, I think. I'm not quite sure Harry Maguire is worth 80 million, but he is English and he is decent. And Man United really do need centre-backs, don't they? So you kind of understand it. I'd personally pay 40 million for James Tarkowski if I was Man United over 80 million for Harry Maguire. But listen, if Leicester sell Harry Maguire for 8 million and get James Tarkowski for 40, that is the best piece of transfer business they've ever done. That is brilliant, in my opinion. You've got £40 million and a player who's just as good. So, yeah. And for those of you who are like, no, Harry Maguire is way better. The only, where was Harry Maguire last season, really? Honestly, didn't really hear much about him. He had a brilliant World Cup. That is what that 80 million is for. So, yeah. Newcastle will give their manager £100 million transfer budget. No, they won't. Of course they won't. They'll give them 10 million and then £90 million because they sold players. There you go. Liverpool will not sell Divock Origi. I really want Divock Origi to come to Crystal Palace. That would be brilliant. See if there's anything too interesting going on down here. Scotland. No one cares about Scotland. And then we have the BBC kind of gossip page as well. Just make that a little bit bigger. Man City are not prepared to meet Leicester's current asking price for defender Harry Maguire, leaving rivals Man United in the clear to wrap up a deal. Yeah, okay. Bruno Fernandes is a player who, has been linked to a lot. I mean, these are some big signings if Man United get both these players. That's a lot of money going on there. Oh, now they've picked up Sol from Atletico Madrid as well as a replacement for Paul Pogba. So apparently Pogba's going to go to Real Madrid. Personally, if I was Man United, I'd take any money for this guy because he is like a cancer in that club, isn't he? Just get him out quickly. He's not good. I wouldn't want him at my club personally. I guess maybe that's fueling some of the money. Pogba can be a brilliant player, but an elite player isn't brilliant in 60% of the games. He's brilliant in 90% of the games. So yeah. Arsenal in the race to sign Marcelo. I think this is paper talk. I can't see Arsenal signing Marcelo. Actually, I definitely could see Arsenal signing it. That is such an Arsenal signing. A 31-year-old Brazilian left back who can't defend. that is an Arsenal signing. So that's definitely going to happen. West Ham have stepped up their interest in Salomon Rondon. I can't believe Palace never signed Salomon Rondon. I said this, and he was great for Newcastle last season. Dejan Lovren could be on his way out. Okay. Man City face competition from Barcelona for Juventus and Portugal fullback Cancelo. He's a good fullback. AC Milan want to use Portugal striker Andre Silva, 23, as part of a £40 million swap deal to bring in Wolves and Portugal midfielder Ruben Neves. Interesting. Tottenham legend Ozzy Ardila says it's futile for the club to try to keep Danish midfielder Christian Eriksen. Futile. I mean, okay, he is under contract, so technically they can. West Ham are trying to sign Maxi Gomez. Yeah, Arsenal's been linked heavily with Ryan Fraser. Arsenal linked heavily with a lot of players, but apparently they don't have any money, so I'm not quite sure what's happening there. Anybody interesting? Arsenal again, about an Argentinian international central defender, Kahneman. Giovanni Dos Santos is pretty good move to Club America. Wow, I remember him. And there's Frank Lampard there. Okay, interesting. One of the big ones I haven't seen mentioned here actually, but has been mentioned a lot in the last few days, is Wilf Zaha. Obviously, as a Crystal Palace fan, that hit home. Arsenal fades for Zaha. It's an interesting one. Even like it's been quite the last couple of days for it. I don't know if there's anything on here even about it, but it's been heavily linked with Arsenal because he, apparently supports Arsenal. Blah blah blah. The fact of the matter is that Crystal Palace want 80 million for him, and whatever people say, like, oh, it's too much. Blah blah blah. It's too much. Yeah, here we go. So Palace want 80 million for Zaha. And people are like, that's too much, he's not worth that. Okay, if you don't want to sell something, but someone wants to buy it, why are you selling the price for what it's worth? If you own a car, okay, and you've maybe looked after that car, nurtured that car, upgraded it, serviced it, put new wheels on it, if you like, and you love that car, and it's like your best car. You see where this is going. And then somebody's like, and your car is probably worth about 10 grand, yeah. And somebody's like, hey, I want to buy that car. I'll pay you 10 grand for it. And you're like, but I don't want to sell the car, so no thanks. And they're like, no, your car wants to come with me. I'll give you 10 grand for it. And you're like, well, look, I don't want to sell the car. I'll have to get another car to replace it. I've put a lot of time and effort into this car. So give me 20 grand and I'll sell it to you. And the guy's like, well, it's not worth 20 grand. And you're like, yeah, but I don't want to sell it and I don't need to sell it. So do you understand the position here? I'm absolutely flabbergasted that there seems to be people out there who are like, oh, why are Crystal Palace not just selling him to Arsenal? Oh, they're holding him back, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what is this? Like, this is called business, people. Like, this is probably why Arsenal are in so much trouble all the time, because they just have no concept. When players leave Arsenal and go off to other clubs, do people turn around and go, oh, well, yeah, no, that's fair enough because they're a big club and he wanted to play with them, play for that club. So, it's fair that they, brought him for what he's worth. It's like, what? Give me a break. This is not the way business works. You have an asset. Someone wants to buy that asset off you. You don't sell it for the asking price if they want it, Arsenal apparently bid 40 million for him. That is a joke. If we just sold Wan-Bissaka for 50 million, why on earth would we sell Zaha for 40? Like, this makes no sense. Attackers are worth more than defenders. That's just the way the transfer market works. Just about. There's usually like a 10-20 million pound surplus in turn, or like a 10-20%, extra for attackers, if you like. Wilf Zaha, in my opinion, and if Arsenal fans can disagree with me, then why are you trying to sign him? But Wilf Zaha, for me, is the best player outside the top six, by a long, long way. He would easily fit into any team in the top six. I'm not saying he would be a regular starter for the likes of, the Liverpools, Man Cities, etc. But other than that, I think he'd go straight into any of those teams. He is a world-class player. And people, again, they're looking at his stats and be like, oh, how can this guy be worth 80 million? He's only got like 9 assists and 10 goals last season. And you're like, he plays for Crystal Palace. Have some perspective. Like, he single-handedly has to make those goals. Like, if you watch some of the highlights of his goals, like the thing is about Zaha that makes him so special is he does things that other players cannot do. It's not just like, oh, this guy can pass. There's lots of players who can pass in the world. Oh, this guy's good in the air. Lots of players who are good in the air. Or this guy, he's fast. Lots of players are fast. No, this guy has unreal ball skills. Like, with the ball at his feet, He will destroy people, and that is a skill that is worth more money in football than anything else because it's so rare, you know. And the other reason why it's worth so much money is because it gets fans up on their feet. Like, it excites people, and football is an entertainment business at the end of the day. And as much as it's great when you see Wan-Bissaka slide in a tackle on a player, you know, stop him going through, and you're like, yeah. When I see Wilfried Zaha, like, absolutely rip a defence apart, you know, with his ball skills, like that makes me pay my ticket price. That makes me pay for my pay-per-view on there, and that's why he's worth £80 million, because that's what he does. If he was just a goal scorer who would bang in a few goals or whatever, and his stats look good, yeah, he'd probably be worth a lot of money, but that's not what it's about. And people who are kind of derising this kind of £80 million price tag for him are idiots. They are absolute idiots. You know, he is the lifeblood of Crystal Palace. Like, if Crystal Palace lose him, I don't know what we'll do. Like, I don't object to him going anywhere. I said this about Wan-Bissaka. I don't object to him going to a big club. I object to him going to Arsenal because I don't think they're a big enough club for him. Like, they're not a Champions League club. I'd like to see him play in the Champions League. I think he's more than capable. I think he would have been a fantastic replacement for Hazard at Chelsea, but they can't obviously sign him. I object to him going and playing in the Europa League. I think he's better than that. Like, I think he's selling himself short if he goes to Arsenal, but I kind of understand he's probably thinking, I'm 26, like, you know, where's my next big deal? Do I want to stay for another season at Palace, you know, and fight against relegation? Well, I can't blame the guy for not wanting to do that at all. You know, he's given us a lot. He's given us a good few seasons when he could have left already for a lot less money. So I can't blame him, but like, Palace are not going to sell him on the cheap. Of course not. They're going to have to pay a lot of money to replace him. We won't be able to replace him because we can't afford to get a player in that good. So, you know, Arsenal fans, or even people who aren't Arsenal fans, who are going like, he's not worth 80 million. It's like, you honestly don't know what you're talking about, because it's not a question of how good is his play. It's the skill set he brings to a club that is so rare nowadays amongst football. That ability to just tear apart a defence, to put the fear of God into a defence. He terrifies defenders in a way that, like, a lot of other footballers just don't do. Like, he can do something different. You know, one of the reasons why Liverpool signed Shaqiri was because he could do something different that they didn't have, and they knew that they could bring him on and he could, you know, turn the tide of a game potentially, you know, by kind of coming on. You know, that's why players go for huge money. You know, that's why, you know, one of the reasons why everybody kind of, like, I don't say everybody, but I would say the majority of people love Messi more than Ronaldo, because Ronaldo is just a straight up dominator of a football match. Okay, he scores goals. He's like a ruthless assassin. Like, he just goes in there and destroys everyone. You know, Messi does it with such flair that it gets people on their feet and they're entertained. Like, I'm entertained watching Ronaldo. I love watching him play, but when I see Messi dribbling with that ball at his feet, like, that is something else, isn't it? That's what football, like, that's what you love about football. So that's why he's worth 80 million, in my opinion. Who could Palace possibly sign if they do sell him? I don't know. Like, it scares the living hell out of me next season for Palace. It's going to be another season where I'm like, the only reason Palace are going to stay up is because there's three worse teams than them in the league, and I am fed up with the way that's kind of going. But I also understand that, you know, we're just not a big enough club to keep hold of talents like Wan-Bissaka and Zaha, and that's just life, unfortunately. We'll just have to look out for the you know, next batch of, you know, players coming through, basically. So yeah. Ollie's looking happy, though. We're glad he's looking happy. He deserves to be happy. Anyway, that kind of concludes this. Maybe I'll do another one in a couple of weeks and we'll have a look. Oh, Philippe Cocu was the replacement Derby County manager. Never managed in English football. It's going to go really well. Till next time, guys. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.